All right, this is an oral history session on Wednesday, April 30th at about 10 a.m. Between Shanti Zaid with Blair Caldwell African American Research Library and Karlya Shelton-Benjamin. If let's begin just with some basics. If you could pronounce your full name, and even spell it if possible, and then where and when you were born, and what you do generally.
My name is Karlya Shelton-Benjamin. Karlya is Karlya, Shelton Shelton, and Benjamin Benjamin. I was born here in Denver at Mercy Hospital, which is no longer there, on April 13th, 1957. And
And what you do for a living?
now?
Mm-hmm.
Now I am with 4 other ballerinas and we have an LLC called the 152nd Street Black Ballet Legacy, and our purpose is to educate and inspire and motivate young dancers of color, especially in the world of ballet.
Yeah.
Because it was closed for so long to, like so many other things, to Black people, that we will use our knowledge to and pay it forward to these young dancers coming up.
Excellent. That's a much better answer than I was expecting. I like that. I wanted to begin with a little bit of family background.
Mm-hmm.
So could you talk start with your grandparents?
Okay.
Yeah.
My mother's parents are Addie Mae, I guess she goes with Bell, and Joseph Bell, and my father's parents are Lloyd C. Shelton Sr. and Jean Pierce Shelton. Sorry, that's my mom.
Oh.
My grandmother's name was Grace Bentley. And my mother's side of the family they started in Pilot Point, Texas, and then they lived in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. My father's side was Arkansas and Iowa.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. My mother's side of the family, who I know more about because we do have family reunions, my great-grandmother was the first to come here to Denver. Then her sister followed her, and then the children, my grandmother and her sister, my great-aunt, came after that to Denver.
And where did they come from?
Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you know about when that was?
I think it was, I can find out, but I think it was sometime in just after my mom was born, so late 30s probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And have you heard any stories about why they moved to Denver? Why they left Oklahoma?
I don't know. I think they thought that there were better opportunities here in Colorado. I don't think they knew anyone here before coming, but yeah, they just thought it was better.
Yeah.
And they were right. I mean, nothing wrong with Oklahoma, but Colorado is so pretty.
It is very pretty. Do you know what they did in Oklahoma? Were they in agriculture or?
I remember that my great-grandfather had a farm, and my great-aunt talks about smoking meat in a smokehouse, and how she and her sister used to go there in the summer, I guess it was, and help turn the watermelons.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
So yeah, they had my great-great-grandfather had a farm, and yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
She talked also about playing with indigenous kids in dirt. It was so dusty, I guess, there, and I have a recording of her. I meant to listen to it, but she talked about, just, it was so dusty there, but we just played, in the dust.
Yeah, that might have been around the Dust Bowl where
Probably.
a lot of that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then, do you know what they did when they arrived in Denver?
My grandmother worked in cafes or restaurants, so she was a waitress. My grandfather at that time, my grandmother was married twice, I believe, and so he did not come. So it was just she, her sister, and the kids, and my great great aunt, and my grandmother. Or sorry, great grandmother.
So it was all of the women that migrated.
Yeah, and I think my great great grandfather must have come up later because he ended up living here. And we have a picture with the 5 generations. It's so special. When you're a kid, you don't realize how special it is, but then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on my father's side, my grandfather was a draftsman, an engineer, and I know that he started out as a porter, which a lot of my family did. It was a good job. I know my great aunt's husband worked. He was a chef or cook on the railroad.
The Pullman line.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And my grandfather Lloyd, the Shelton side of the family, worked on the Cherry Creek Reservoir. So he was one of the engineers that helped to create and construct the reservoir there in Cherry Creek. He also did some work at Lowry Air Force Base, and my father worked along with him because my father had the beginnings of an education in engineering. He was in an engineering school before they moved here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Isn't that? I didn't know while he was alive. I didn't know. Because people just didn't talk. They didn't. Some people didn't really share, and he was so quiet. He rarely said much.
So, would that have been in the 40s or 50s?
It must have been in the 40s, and I have to check when they moved here, but it had to be in the 40s. It had to be in the 40s. My grandmother told me a story once about her. She worked during the war welding, and she told me that she had a scar on her nose, and she said one of them flipped open and sliced her nose. And I'm like, oh God, that was, what was life like then? I mean, I can't even imagine, and hopefully won't have to know what it's like for us to be in a war like that.
Yeah. That was a big moment where a lot of women went into those industrial jobs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gosh, I don't think they're allowed anymore.
It's
I think they're going to be missed.
yeah, that's true too. All right, and then a little bit more about your parents.
My parents. My mom worked for the state. She started out with an insurance company, and then she ended up working for the state of Colorado in what is now Human Resources. It was personnel. And my dad worked in the post office and worked his way up to being postmaster for the post office in Littleton, I think it was.
Okay. Very nice. So you mentioned that your parents might have had a relationship with the Owl Club or some of the social clubs around town.
Yeah. My dad was an owl. He was an owl for, I don't know, a long time. I forgot what year he started. it was, I think, after I left Colorado, and my mother, she was one of the first debutantes here in Colorado. She said she's in the second tier, the second year that they did it. She was a debutante.
Wow.
Yeah, and after that, they of course worked with the debutantes because the Owls do the debutante ball, and my mom would teach the dance, I guess.
Wow.
That kind of
That's
stuff.
very cool.
Yeah,
I think they're approaching their 75th debutante ball.
Wow.
it's a pretty strong tradition.
Yeah, it is. I was never a debutante. I just didn't have time for it.
Mhm.
It was so not me. So not me. I just, and they didn't push.
Mhm. Was there any particular family experiences that did relate to dance? Were they encouraged or pushed, or was it pretty open?
They encouraged me the whole time I was in dance. I mean, I got started because it was like you do with your children, you take them and see what sticks, you take them to different things.
Yeah.
And for me, it was dance, and I also played the viola.
Mhm.
But they were always encouraging. No one in my family danced. My mom could tap a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
She actually taught me how to do the time step. But she was not a dancer
Yeah.
professional, or she didn't pursue dance as a career.
Mhm.
But if you see her now, anytime a slide comes on, she's up.
She's
At 92, she's up.
very nice. Well, so last question on family background. Are there any noteworthy or stories that have been passed down in your family, or any earliest ancestors that are talked about or celebrated?
I know that, and I'm sorry I don't know the year, but Canada opened the borders for, I don't know what the term is, and they were welcoming men to come up and acquire land, and because they needed people. And so my family were part of a group of people that took a train from Oklahoma to all the way up to Canada, and they ended up settling there. So I have quite a few relatives in Canada now.
Really?
Yeah, it's a great story. The men couldn't ride the women and children rode where people sit, in the seated areas, but the men rode with the cattle.
Mm-hmm.
They took everything they had and they just moved there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it panned out that they're still
They're still
thing.
there, yeah. My grandmother told me about my great aunt told me about a story where it was just open land, and they had some land here, and then there was another relative that had land not too far away, and she was walking over to that land, and it's just wild,
Mm-hmm.
and she ran into a bear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she didn't get close. The bear saw her. The bear had cubs, and she was smart enough to just back away,
Yeah.
and get away from it. I don't think she had ever come in contact with that kind of a wild animal before,
That is a cultural adjustment.
Yes,
to have to
yes, to know they're right there.
make. That's great. I wanted to follow up. You mentioned that a lot of your family had been Pullman Porters.
Yes.
And I know that's a big part of Denver's Black community history.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know any other details or stories around those experiences?
I don't. I know my great uncle, QZ Sanford, and his brother, and I don't know who else actually. There were about 5 of them, and they were all Pullman porters and cooks, and they all worked the railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank
Union
you.
Pacific, I think it was.
All right. Well, let's move into a little bit about you just growing up in Denver, some of your education, and what the community was like here.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off with how would you describe your early character, your early personality as a child?
I was kind of, my mom said that I was a sort of a loner. And I was just fine being by myself and making up games and playing and by myself. When we moved over to Park Hill, there were more kids around, and so we were all pretty tight group of kids.
Where did you live before Park Hill?
On Fillmore, 29th and Fillmore. My brother has that house now. We lived upstairs, and my grandparents lived downstairs.
And when did you move?
I was 5.
You were 5. Okay, so Park Hill is really your
Really,
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I opened up a little bit more, but I've always been sort of a quiet person. I'm not the first person that will go out and speak. I'm more of an observer. So I'll just check you out first. And I've always been like that, to see if I should approach you or if I want to. And I guess I still am sort of like that. Yeah. I was a good student, always at the top. I liked school. I went to Stedman Elementary School, and then unfortunately we were bused, our whole block group. We were bused to what was Byers Junior High, and then came back over, and I was supposed to go to East, but my mom and dad pulled some strings, and I had some extended family that was at Manual, so I ended up going to Manual for my sophomore and junior year, and then they bused us again, which I have a lot to say about that. But so I was bused to George Washington. I was really upset about that. I think all of our senior class was. We had made plans, about, and we were all broken up and separated, and so I ended up graduating in January rather than waiting the whole year. I did a little bit of summer school. I had 3 classes when I started at GW, and so I was out of there by about 10:30 or something. I just didn't have a passion for being there. There was nothing wrong with the school, but all of my family had graduated from Manual, so I was so happy to go there, and my 2 extended family uncles were there, Coach Burrell and Coach Gatewood were there, and their kids, and I mean, it was such a nice community school, and I had been away from black people for, my whole junior high school experience. So my parents were happy to, get us back in the community. And I really have this thing about busing. I don't know if they even do it anymore, but, to break up communities like that is just so, it's damaging, because I don't think they ever really think about that. Instead of making things equal everywhere, then you don't have to break up communities, because they don't understand the strength that there is within the community and how it works. And so, that is it's a bug for me. It's under my skin to this day.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what the community was like for you in some of these, areas in that Manual, before it got broken up.
Well, in Park Hill, it was great. It was the time when anybody's parents could tell you what to do, right? You had to mind everyone's parents, and everybody looked out for each other, and it was just close, I remember we would be on our bikes miles away from home, but we were all together, and we all go back, and my dad had this whistle that you could hear for blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our signal to come home,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that and the street lights.
Tune into the...
Yes, everybody knew that whistle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, and then at Manual, it was good being in community again. I can't say that I was accepted by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it, and I gave a speech during the class reunion last year, or I guess that was earlier this year. And I think a lot of people maybe thought I was, because I didn't go to middle school or junior high school with a lot of those people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they may have thought I was stuck up or something, because I don't talk that much, you know, I didn't talk that much, and I didn't do a lot of after school activities because I was going to ballet,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of kids didn't really know that at the beginning. So I had a few friends, but I know there were some people that were not so nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's everywhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a part of that early experience.
Yeah, but I think, and I mentioned this, I think the thing that, at one point I was, with ballet, we did an experiment where we were being broadcast in Russia, and they were being broadcast here, and they were correcting the dancers here on a traditional ballet, and I was there. I was kind of background. There were 4 like background people and 2 principal people, and I jumped up in front of the camera just to see what it was like, and they snapped a picture, and it was on the cover, the front page of the Denver Post. I was going to bring that, but I thought it was a little big.
I'll find it.
And so I remember Mr. Calloway, he said, you should go and get your picture taken, put in the Hall of Fame, because in the Manual foyer, which is sacred, there were pictures of people who had made accomplishments. So I went and I got my picture taken, and a couple days later it was up on the, and it just felt so good because, you know, I was with other people, you know, like me in the community. However, the following day when I came in, someone had put gum on the nose of the picture. Yeah. And I think the thing that hurt so much was because it meant a lot to me for these people to accept me. Because that's these are my people, my tribe.
Yeah.
And for them to treat it like that, disrespect me like that, it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It still kind of hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, those were the people I wanted to, you know, to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they didn't get it.
Was this like early 70s or so?
Yeah, this was probably about 73, 74. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I talk about a lot now is that we have to realize how strong we are together,
Mm-hmm.
so we can't really tear each other down.
Yeah.
It's what other people want. They want to weaken the community like that. And so if we stick together, we are mighty, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want people to get that. You know, I hope our kids are getting that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because we are strong.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So you've mentioned that ballet was a part of your early education.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
started dancing when I was 4, and I just kind of stuck with it because every year we would do the Nutcracker, and every year you got to do a different part, right? And I loved it. I loved dancing. I loved expressing myself that way. since I didn't talk that much. This was the way for me to express myself, and I didn't really think about it that much, but I guess, well, I was good. I could do pretty much everything, and at one point, I guess I was in high school, I was being pulled because I played viola too. And I was second chair in the city for the citywide orchestra.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was cool. But each side was pulling me in their direction. And I mean, I loved the viola, but I really loved to dance. And one year, I think I was 16, I had a car accident and I broke my wrist. And that kind of settled it. Thank you. So I dropped the viola and I continued to dance, and then I just got better and better, and there was nothing like it for me. Just, I always look at dance as if you could see the music, if you could visually see the music, it would be dance. So dance is just how the music looks. That's how I've always approached it. So, and I think having a musical background really helped me through my dance career. I understand music, and I read it, and I can separate things. I can hear the violin and be the violin, or I can hear the oboe and dance with the oboe,
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
We'll go full force into dance in a moment.
Okay.
But were there, thinking about community, were there any particular elders or locations, good hangout spots that you frequented that really helped you?
I didn't necessarily have any hangout spots, but as far as elders, my parents and their friends were models to me of how people should be to each other. They had a lot of love and respect for each other. Many of them are my extended family. We all grew up together, and so they were good models as to how people should be with each other. You know what I mean? And of a tight community. And then I had a couple of teachers. In second grade, I had Mrs. Selman, and in third or fourth, Mrs. Somerton, and then Mr. Daniels was there. I cannot think of Mr. Daniels' name. Claire is his wife. Okay, and then at Manual, Mrs. Davis, Joyce Davis, she was the music director, and those were the people that I had in school. As far as dance went, I didn't have anyone because there wasn't anyone that looked like me. But everyone was very nurturing and very friendly, but I didn't have a role model or anything as far as dance went.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dive into dance a little bit. So, just thinking about your early dance involvement, do you have a favorite memory of an early time, something that stands out a little bit more than others, or a moment where you came to a new realization about taking dance more seriously?
I don't really have any outstanding memories coming up. I remember one of the things was that I always wanted to be Clara, the little girl that is in the story of the Nutcracker.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that has the dream. She's one of the main characters.
Yep.
And I just, really wanted that role. And so on my way up, I was the part that you would get before Clara. And then after that, I was moved up to Snow Queen. So they skipped me over that role. And I didn't understand why for a long time. It just didn't occur to me. I told that to Cleo Parker Robinson. She said, well, why would it?
Yeah.
But it was because I was black and I was pretty much the only one. So, and I don't think the audience would have been ready for mixed race families on stage, although it is a made up story. So anything is possible. Candy does not dance. I mean, and so that, and I was never cast in the Sugar Plum role. That's the lead role in the second night. So that was a little, it bothered me, but I didn't really put too much thought in it because who doesn't want to be the queen? I mean, get to wear a crown and everything, and a tutu.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until way later that I realized, oh, that's why. But like I said, I was the only one in that company. There were people that came and went. They didn't stay very long. But I stayed from the time I was 4 till I was 17. And Lillian Cavello and Friedan Parker they were very nurturing. They always, pushed me along and, helped me or just gave me roles that I should have been given, basically.
So were these experiences with the Nutcracker over the years, were these all a part of the Colorado Concert Ballet?
Yes.
So how did you get into that?
To the Colorado Concert Ballet?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the school that I joined when I was 4 fed into that company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were doing like kind of regular school in one area, and then also having this dance
ballet
component,
school.
ballet school directly related to that school.
Yeah, to the company.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, after regular school, I would go to ballet school, and then every year, like I said, they would give you roles in the Nutcracker, so you get to go on stage, and even the little kids, and that was something I looked forward to every year, and every year it got better and better and better, and we performed at Bonfils Theater, which is now the Tattered Cover Bookstore.
Yeah.
But
a big venue back then.
yeah, it was. It wasn't the auditorium because there was another ballet company that did the auditorium. They were called the Denver Civic Ballet. But I don't know. I think I forgot your question. Sorry.
Yeah, a little just of the context of the Colorado Concert Ballet.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of different ballets, and I was given, I earned good roles in all of those ballets, so it was always a challenge. And that's the whole thing about ballet, is the challenge, because there are very few performances where you could actually say you had a perfect performance. Because there's always, there's some iffies, and so you spend your career trying to achieve perfection. And so that's the challenge. It's like, okay, am I going to do it tonight? Or, Not to mention, it's just fun. I mean, to me, it was always fun. I never thought about the audience so much. I think at first I did when I was here. Once I got to Dance Theater of Harlem, I never thought about the audience. I just thought about this. It was like a private, an intimate thing on the stage with the music and the people that we were dancing with.
Yeah.
The audience, okay, you just happen to be there and you just happen to be able to see this, but I never performed for the audience. I always performed for myself. It took a while to get to that point because you want to please, you know, and especially, I know I'm jumping ahead, but with Arthur Mitchell, he was a hard person to please, and you wanted just to get a very good or good job, good performance from him. And when I realized that that probably wasn't coming like I wanted it to, I decided that, you know what, I'm dancing for me because it's fun and I'm enjoying it and it's a challenge, and you know, each time I do it, I'm getting closer to perfection.
Yeah. So maybe that got clearer in Harlem. It sounds like that challenge and that love for the challenge to keep getting better and pushing yourself within this personal bar that you're setting for yourself had been a part of your attitude toward dance in your Colorado days.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that's what it was, but yeah.
Were there any other notable moments from your experience with the Colorado Concert Ballet?
I remember going on tour here in Colorado, and we performed in Leadville. And I remember it being hard to breathe, a little harder to breathe once you were really, you know, exerting yourself. And I just remember some of the ladies smoked, and they had such a hard time, you know. But I was told that I got to go on that tour because I knew everyone's part. And so if somebody got ill, and I didn't really think about it, it's just, oh, you know, I'm going to learn this one and this one. And I realized much later that I have not really a photographic memory, but I have good recall. So if you give me a combination, I probably will get it right away. Yeah.
It's a good skill to have.
It's a good skill. It's a good skill, yes.
All right. And so that you were in Colorado Concert Ballet up until you were 17?
Until I was 17. And I knew I wanted to be a professional ballerina. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I was going to get there. And this teacher from New York came and she taught at the Colorado Concert Ballet. And she asked me when I was 17, she asked a bunch of us, there were about 7 or 8 of us, and she said, well, what are you going to do with your dancing? And I said, well, I'm going to be a professional ballerina. And she said, well, how old are you? And I said, I'm 17. And she said, well, it's almost too late. Which was like alarming and eye-opening. And so she actually arranged for, I think there were like 8 of us, 3 guys and 5 girls. And she arranged for us, auditions for us in New York with professional companies. And just before we went, Dance Magazine, which is the magazine that all dancers at that time especially, you know, that was like the Bible, you know, you always couldn't wait for the next edition. And right before we went, Lydia Barca was on the cover of Dance Magazine, and she was the first black ballerina I had ever seen. And when I opened, there was a whole company of black dancers and ballerinas, and I asked the teacher, I said, could you get me an audition with this company? And she was well connected, and she came back a couple days later and said, yeah, I got you an audition there. And that's how I went forward. She was really great. Her name was Dolores Kerr, and there's a prestigious competition called the Prix de Lausanne that's in Lausanne, Switzerland. And I had never really heard of dance competitions. I didn't think it was a competitive thing because it's so individual, but you have more of them now than they had then. I still don't get it, really. But we auditioned to go to represent the United States in this competition. And I won the Colorado part of it, and so we had another part that was in Saratoga, New York, and I won that too. And so I represented the United States. That was in '76. I was the first black ballerina to do that.
And this was when you were part of the Colorado.
That was as I was leaving.
There's international opportunity, and you're looking for auditions for things.
She didn't make a big deal out of it. She said, just audition, just see.
So you came into your auditions after having won these big competitions.
No, I auditioned. Wow, it was like right on top of each other. I was accepted at the Dance Theater of Harlem, and then there was this competition. So it was like right on top of each other.
Sounds like a very busy time.
It was, It was funny because we were, I think all founders or all dance artistic directors kind of have this thing. They don't want to see their dancers leave. But there were no opportunities here to become professional. And so when Mrs. Kerr kind of took us under her wing, they didn't allow her in the studio anymore. So we all left with her. And this was before we auditioned. And I remember one time we were rehearsing in a barn, in the upper part of the barn, the loft part, I guess. And it was so slippery. We could barely do anything, but we were looking for space, and somebody knew somebody with the barn.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You would think if they had a school that's training people from early childhood all the way up, there would be some sense of direction for it.
I don't think they ever looked past that. They wanted, this was it, and they didn't want really their dancers to go other places. There was only one other person that I knew that was older than me that went to the company in Banff, Canada, for a summer, but she didn't like it. It wasn't for her, I guess. And I was so envious of her. I remember writing to her and how is it, and she would write back to me, but it just wasn't for her, I guess. But when you're in a regional company like that, you don't know what it's like to be in a professional company and how much work it is. I had no idea, that it was going to be an all-day, more than 8-hour job. Talk about it. So you did your audition. It apparently went well. It went well. I was accepted with the School of American Ballet, which feeds into the New York City Ballet, into the Joffrey Ballet, and to Dance Theater of Harlem. And of course, I chose Dance Theater of Harlem. And one of the things that really got me, I auditioned with the company on stage. They were performing in their season, which is like on Broadway. And so I was on stage, and Arthur Mitchell, I took class with the company, and after the class he said, go put your pointe shoes on. So I went backstage to put my pointe shoes on, and there were these women, and they were dyeing their shoes and spraying their shoes skin color. And it was like this big light bulb went off in my head, like, that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be one line from your fingertips to your toes, And mine were always broken because I had to wear pink tights and pink shoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dance Theater of Harlem started that
Wow.
with the flesh-colored tights and shoes.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it for me. Not to mention just being around other people who had had similar experiences, either being the only one in there where they grew up learning ballet, or never dancing with people, a company or people that looked like them. So,
How long had Dance Theater of Harlem been around?
so I joined them in '75. They were created in '68, I believe, '68. They achieved professional status within 3 years, I believe it was, which is unheard of for a company.
And this was Arthur Mitchell's
Creation. Yes. Yeah, that was his vision. He had been a professional dancer with New York City Ballet, and he was the only black male there. And when Martin Luther King was assassinated, he was actually on his way to Brazil to start a company there. And he thought about it, and he said, what am I doing? You know, my community needs me. And so he turned back around and went up to, he's from Harlem. He grew up in Harlem. And so he opened a school in Harlem for the community. He said, I need to do something for my community, my people. And it started out just in the basement of a church. And he just left the doors open, and whoever wanted to come in could. And I think within months he had like 300 kids, 300 people just coming in. And he had a way with convincing you that you needed to take dance. He told the guys, you know, this is going to help you. If you play basketball, this is going to help you jump, you know, or if you play sports, this is going to help you be able to move quickly. And he just had this way of engaging people.
Yeah. Almost like a coach, thinking outside of the box for.
Yeah.
These.
He was a real visionary.
When you started there, did you? What was your sense of aspiration? Your sense of risk and like nervousness?
I don't think I was ever really nervous because it was such a welcoming environment. I started out as an apprentice, which I wasn't supposed to, but somebody lost the directions. I kept telling I'm supposed to be up with the company, and they just stay here for now. But I stayed there. I think I was there for a month, and then they said, okay, go up there. But that environment was like a family. It was very family-like, and one of the reasons I think was because this was such a new thing, you know. And Arthur Mitchell, he was not a real easy person to deal with, to work with. He was very strong personality, not always graceful in the things that he said. And so we helped each other to survive that, you know, so that's how we became more family-like. And then it got to the point where there were families within, we made up fake families, you know, and when you got into the company, you had a mother and a father, and they helped you to maneuver and through being a professional, because it's very different. And they would say things like, don't ever sit down. You must learn everything, you know. You should never, you're an apprentice or you're a beginner, you should always be learning something or working on something.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that first month, it was just like my legs would be like spaghetti at the end of the day. Because, you know, you start out at 9, we started out at 9, and we had Pilates, which was before it was called Pilates. But Kathy Grant was a pioneer of Pilates, and she taught there. And so we had a half hour of mat work, which I hated, and then a half hour break, and then we go up and take company class, which was from 10 to 12:30, and then we'd have a half hour break. But not if you were a beginner. You had to be up. And then we'd have rehearsals from 1 to 4, and the company would go on break, but not if you were first joining, you had to take another class from 4 to 6, and then you had a little break, and then we had rehearsal from 6 to 8. So it was a full-time job.
Yeah.
And then when we were performing, it's similar, but we wouldn't have the Pilates. But we would have the class, and then we'd rehearse on stage, to block everything, place everything, get used to the stage from 1 to about 4. Then we'd have a break from 4 to 6. Come back at 6, take another class, a warm-up class for the performance. Performance was from 8 to about 10, and then you're finished. So it was, it was something that we were so grateful to have these people to help us understand what this world was like and how we needed to be in order to maneuver through the work and to grow. Yeah.
I'm just thinking a little bit about your background for the Colorado company. In the transition, there's a lot of professionalization, kind of higher demands on your expertise and exploring different areas. Were there other kind of big realizations that you had, like, oh wow, like kind of like how you mentioned the skin tone of the shoes, that things that were just like, wow, this is next level.
There were a couple of things. First of all, going to Harlem, I had no idea what to expect because all I had ever seen was in those movies. And most of those were blaxploitation movies, right?
Yep.
And so I was expecting it to be like that, but it was nothing like that. It was like home. It was like here. It was like our neighborhoods and our communities. People were friendly. They watched out for you. They knew who we were because we all had our hair in buns. So, you'd walk to the subway and they'd say, well, how was ballet? Don't eat too much. And, are you guys traveling anywhere? And they were just like, it was just like I was used to. Like we are, how we are. And then, there was something else I was going to say. So I was used to dancing to only classical music. And dance theater had a ballet called Forces of Rhythm. And Forces of Rhythm had two different, it was a convergence of two different styles of dance. Modern or ethnic and ballet. So there were 4 groups of 4. 4 ballet boys or guys, 4 ballet girls, 4 ethnic guys, and 4 skirt girls. And the ballet people were on point and everything. And we danced to, that ballet had classical music, but it also had Aretha Franklin. It had we danced to Spanish Harlem. It had Kool and the Gang. It had, I think it was Rufus Thomas that did the breakdown, do the breakdown. You were too young to know. But yeah, and so that was like, it was another step to go, to saying, this is, thank God for this, this is where I belong. This is us bringing our own sass and flavor to what was a European art form. And it was just beautiful. It was just, so that opened my mind even more to, we had a ballet to Santana. I mean, it was just like, yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah. Did it feel like the community was responsive to these contributions that were being made?
I think at first there were people that were naysayers. They were like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing a European art form? Why don't you just stay within? But then when they saw us, then they would understand. And Arthur was so good because he would do open houses at the studio, the Dance Theater of Harlem studio, and he would invite the community to come in and watch performances. You could try out new things there, or he would show pieces of ballets, and so it got the community acquainted with who we were and what we were doing up there. And I think they looked at us as a jewel within the community. Yeah.
What about I imagine some of the performances had predominantly white audiences?
Yeah, especially when we went overseas. And the thing that's, let's see if I can say this the right way. We're always being told what we can and cannot do. And they did their best to not let Dance Theater of Harlem exist. They did not want it there. Black people should not be doing ballet. Their bodies are not right. Their feet are not right. Any excuse, they were all excuses, any excuse they could think of. But Arthur never listened, he was, that's your problem, which is how I see it today. It's like, are you afraid that I'm going to be better than you? Is that why you think I can't do? Or are you telling me not to do it? Or, because whatever we did a lot of balancing ballets too. And it was always going to look different than his own company, just for the simple fact that we add our own flavor to it. We just can't help it, Yeah. And I know that originally Balanchine wanted a company of half black dancers and half white dancers, a ballet company. He wanted that, but there weren't enough black ballet dancers to fill that role. And I'm sure that the board and the donors and all of those people didn't want that either. I know when Arthur first performed Agon, he did the pas de deux with a white woman, and it's sort of it can be a little sensual in some of the movements, not overly. But there is a section where she is over his back, and she leans forward, and so her head is on his stomach, and his head is on her stomach too. And somebody in the audience yelled out the N-word. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Are you scared?
Yeah.
That's all I can think of. Now that I'm older, that's how I see it. Are you scared? You're worried, aren't you? Terrible.
So,
shh.
But it sounds like, I know you spoke earlier about not concerning yourself too much with the audience and being in the zone, but even so had some performances of really pushing through some hostility.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it too, you could see people sitting like this, and just closed off, but by the end of the evening they were, yeah, okay, they had to give it up. I remember some not so pleasant experiences in Ireland, in Dublin, on the street, not in the theater, because when we were in the theater, they loved it. there was a place that we went, a theater we went to in the South. I think it was, I want to say it was South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina, I think. Anyway, we had gone in and we had rehearsed during the day. And when we came back for the evening performance, our crew, which was like four or five men, they met us at the stage door and they said, "We're not performing here tonight." And we were like, "What's going on?" And they said, "We don't feel that it's a safe place for you." Yeah. So apparently, I'm thinking they must have heard some remarks by the house crew. And that was the only place that really happened. We blacklisted that theater with the union. But for the most part, yeah, we were ready for people to be, closed off, but we were pretty sure by the end of the evening they would have had a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll come to leaving the company in a moment.
Okay.
But looking back now, how do you understand the significance of the Dance Theater of Harlem for, just in history and in its time, and then your contributions inside of that?
Yeah, that's kind of how the book came about. We really, when you're in it, you don't think of it. You're on a mission. You have to make this company succeed, and you have to perfect your own craft and your own art. So I can't say that we really understood or had the full impact of what we were doing at that time. And it wasn't until years later when we look back and said, we helped build this company that's still around today, and how much it means to the ballet world, to the dance world, to the art world, and to history, Black history, American history. It's big when we think back on it. We're just like, oh my God, we did that. We danced in front of the Queen Mother. We danced in front of the President. We built the name of this company up to be one of the top 5 companies in the world. And I think when the company had to go on hiatus, the full impact of that kind of hit everyone because it was gone. It had to rest for a while and regroup. Yeah. And it was missing, and during that time, Misty Copeland came in. And because people have such short memories, and they kind of forgot about all of that and just saw Misty Copeland, because I think she was with a white company, and that made a big difference, and that made it acceptable to a lot of people. And so people began to label her the first Black ballerina. And that was really upsetting, because it was like, well, wait a minute, we were there, we built this company before she was even born.
Yeah.
And so that was the push for the book. During COVID, we said, we can't let that happen. Whatever we have to do, we have to get our history back out there and educate people so that they know that there was us. And we did that. And thank God it's still going on. But yeah, that and the fact that we're all getting older, and we do have a legacy, and we don't want it to be forgotten. So we started out saying, okay, we're gonna do our own book. We're gonna do like an anthology. We're gonna do this encyclopedia of dancers that went through Dance Theater of Harlem. Yeah. And such ambition. We're gonna make it a picture, 2 or 3 pictures on one side and a bio on the other side. Well, that's 50 years worth of dancers. So
That's a big one.
We had to step back a bit, and we said, okay, we'll do the first 10 years. Because that we know, the 5 of us, we knew very well, and that was even too big. And so one of the ladies knew a literary agent, and she came to one of our meetings. So we started meeting during COVID, and we met with as many alumni as we could. We probably met with about 175 people, and they all said, where's our history? Everything's about Arthur Mitchell, but there's nothing about us, really. And so she came to one of our meetings. We ended up just being the 5 on the council. And she was listening to our story, and she thought, oh my God, this has got to be a book. And then she invited a writer to come and meet us. And the writer was Karen Valby, and she was just so easy to talk to. A lot of times we would forget that she was there, and we'd start reminiscing and talking about things that, because we had been apart for a while, still keeping in touch, but never talking about what we did, And we just started talking. Oh, remember when we went partying with Mick Jagger? Oh yeah, I forgot about that, those kind of things. And so she was just wonderful, and it meant a lot to her because she's the adoptive mother of 2 black girls who are dancers, and they didn't know anyone but Misty Copeland. Yeah, and so she said, my daughters have got to have more role models than just this one person, and there's a whole plethora of people here.
Yep.
And so, that's how we set out. We put it into the universe, and we got an answer.
Yep.
And we're not done.
Good.
There's too many others that need to be
Yeah.
brought to the forefront, and whose histories need to be known.
Yeah, so that reminds me of another question of what, or have there been, did you encounter earlier models or earlier history of black dancers or black ballerinas that you hadn't known before?
The only one I knew of was Judith Jamison. That was the only one I knew of, just because I'd seen her picture. But for me it was like, but she's modern, she's a modern, she's beautiful. And I got to know her later, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted ballet. But she was the only one I had seen until the dance magazine cover with Lydia on the cover. And it's just amazing how things fall into place. If that magazine hadn't come out right before we went to audition, I wouldn't have known to audition for that company.
Yep. That is pretty phenomenal timing.
It is. It's, gosh.
And have any of you had contact or communication with Misty Copeland?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We actually did a panel discussion with her.
Oh.
Because she had seen our article. We had an article in the New York Times when we first started out on this thing. And she realized that she didn't know any of us. And so we had a panel discussion on NPR in Boston, where we met her and we talked about, what it was like for all of us to, and she, I think, was a little embarrassed that she didn't know, and probably unhappy that she didn't know, Dance Theater of Harlem gave in I think it was 2014, they had a call out for black ballerinas to come during the season, the company's season, and be recognized, take a bow on stage, and be recognized. And so we all went. The audience had no idea this was going to happen. And we all stood on the stage, and the curtain went up. I have a picture, I'll be happy to show you. The curtain went up and we were all in silhouette, and Virginia Johnson and Kelly Saunders, who were the artistic director of Dance Theater of Harlem and the ballet mistress, and they told the audience what was happening. These are some of the black ballerinas from history.
Mm-hmm.
And we all stepped forward. They called our name, we stepped forward and we took a bow, and the audience just went wild. And one by one there was like 5 rows of us, so there were about 50 some dancers there, and that's not even close to the amount of people that, that wasn't even counting the ones overseas or a lot of people in the States. And that was where I met Raven Wilkinson, who was the first black ballerina with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. I met Joan Myers Brown, who is the founder of Philadanco. I met Dolores Brown, who was one of the first black ballerinas in the first black ballet company, which was called the Negro Ballet or something like that. They didn't go they weren't as big, but they were the pioneers.
Yeah.
And that was where we met these icons.
Yeah.
And we all, afterwards, some of us went out to a restaurant and we got to know each other, and then we had a brunch the next day, and we shared what it was like in the places that we were. There was one black ballerina with New York City Ballet that we had always seen. We danced at the same time, but we never met her. We only saw her, and she was there, and we got to talk with her, and she talked about what it was like, and it was just it was such a wonderful, healthy thing, to know that there's this elite group of people that did these special things. But I think Raven passed away maybe a couple of years after that. Carmen de Lavalade was there, but we knew Carmen. We had kind of grown up with her. She and Jeffrey Holder, so we knew them. But it was wonderful. And then there were younger dancers that had never had a chance to meet us, and so we got to talk with them, and they got to see, okay, these are the people's shoulders that I stand on. And that's what we got to see too. These are the women who started, whose shoulders we stood on.
Yep. That sounds like an absolutely powerful moment.
It was, and the audience, they were like, we had no idea this was going to happen. Yeah.
So you with the Dance Theater of Harlem, you spoke a little bit about the learning curve, and getting and adjusting to this demanding schedule. Were there some other particularly difficult points or low points in your work with the Dance Theater of Harlem?
Well, the dancers all got along well, and there wasn't a jealousy thing or it was more of a push each other thing. Oh, you're going to do 2 pirouettes? I'm going to do 3. That kind of, we should all do 3. Okay. But one of the most difficult things, I think, was working with Arthur Mitchell. He could be, I guess people say, mercurial. He was wonderful to work with because he had such energy and such a vision, and he saw this thing, and we saw it too, and we helped. We all built this thing. But he could be very demanding. He could be very mean. He could say mean things, and that was kind of why I left. There came a point where, he humiliated me in front of the entire company. My mother, who I don't think he knew, was sitting there. And one of the greats of ballet who was setting a ballet on us. And, you know, I think it just clicked, you know, and I just knew I couldn't do it anymore. Not there. And it really broke my heart because that was where I wanted to dance. I really didn't care about any other place because it was such a special place. And, you know, we both had very strong personalities. We're both Aries, and so we kind of butted heads from time to time. But I know he respected me because I did have I could pick up anything really quickly, pick up choreography. I knew music very well, and you know, the group that we were, we would always make sure that we were all doing the same thing. It was something he didn't have to worry about. You know, we would be like, okay, where's your arm is where? Oh, mine was up here. Which one should we do? You know, and just that was what we did to help the company become. But that day, I just, it hurt. It broke my heart, and he walked out after he did it, and I looked around and I could see other dancers, and they were just like, you know, people put their heads down and, you know, like, oh my God, did you really? And so I went into the office, and he was saying that I wasn't thin enough. At my heaviest, I was 110. And so he said, you come back when you're bone thin. And I told him, I said, I will never be back here again because I will never be treated this way again. And I walked out, and my mom wanted a piece of him. She wanted to go in there, and I said, no. I'm just going to go down and get the things out of my locker. And I said goodbye to the wardrobe mistress, and I walked out the door, and I never turned around. I always tell this story, you know, I walked out, and I swear the clouds parted. The sun came out. Birds with ribbons were chirping around my head, and it was just like, you know. But it was sad because I did dance in a couple of other companies after that, and it just wasn't the same. And I was not ready to leave.
Yeah.
But I was being told it was time to leave. Once again.
So you worked with a few companies afterwards. Didn't have the same vibe.
Mm-mm.
How did you keep alive your passion for creativity and for this creative expression?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think I've always, that's just me, I'm an artist. I picked up photography when I was with the company because dancers are really great subjects. And so I started photographing dancers. When I left, though, I was determined to not be a dancer anymore. Just leave that world behind and move on because it hurt so much not to be able to do that. And so, I did what I could to not be a dancer. I ended up, I didn't know what I was going to do. And you know, in New York, you have to think quickly.
Yes.
And one of my friends said, whatever you do, don't go back home. Don't go back to Colorado.
Yeah.
And so it was rough out there for about a year and a half, you know, just figuring out how to stay. And the company I was with, I was a founding member, they weren't paying though. And so you can't really, so I was forced to take a part-time job in a restaurant, which I was a coat check girl, but then when summer came around, they said, well, let's try you out with serving cocktails. Terrible. I spilled a drink on someone. It was a Bloody Mary, and she had a white dress on it. She was so forgiving. But, you know, that's, so there were a couple of French girls in this company, and we would look through the New York Times for jobs for bilingual people. And I didn't really speak French I took it all through school, but I didn't really, you know, the school French is different from
For sure.
the French that people actually speak. And so I just discovered that there were beautiful places that I could, you know, kind of get into. Fashion houses, perfumeries, jewelry.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I could be that in New York. Yeah. So I was going to go to the Berlitz School and learn French. And one of the people from our extended family, Tonya, told me, you can do that. She spoke French fluently. She had lived there. And she said, you can do that, but when you come out of that school, you're going to speak English again. I would suggest you move there and go to school there. And so I told my parents that's what I wanted to do. I took my little savings and I moved to France. And I didn't know a soul.
Again, didn't know. So.
No, I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know what to expect. But I had enrolled in school, and I was.
What time period was this?
This was 89.
Okay.
86. And I was going to be there for a year. I was like going to be really driven, going to learn the entire language. I'm going to become a translator and, you know, be this bilingual, you know, phenomenon. And so I went there, not knowing anyone. Tonya had given me a list. I think I had a list of 5 people that I could call. And I called one person, and that was a friend of Virginia's, and they helped me to get acquainted with Paris. I was supposed to, the girls that I was with at the company, they had arranged for a place for me to stay when I first got there, and I don't know what happened, but when I got there, they would not let me stay there. And I don't know if it's because they saw me and they said no. I don't know why it was, but she said, we don't have a place here for you.
Yeah.
And this man that had been beside me on the plane, he helped me. He was an older gentleman, and he said, well, they said that they don't know, you have no reservation or anything here. And there was a hotel across the street, and so he helped me with my bags, and they said, well, you know, we have 2 nights at the maximum because Roland Garros is happening right now, the French Open. So I stayed there. I went to my room and I just cried. I just cried. And then I called my mom and we cried together, and I know she was so scared for me. But I turned the television on and Bugs Bunny was on. And Bugs Bunny's always been a hero of mine. Because I don't know, he's funny, and he can do ballet. And
Sure. Yep.
And I thought it was like a sign for me. It was like, okay, everything's going to be okay. You know, just rest and then get it together. And I called one of the former dancers that I had joined the company with, and he was at a ballet company in the north of France, and he came down and he helped me. Yeah, and he helped me find a more permanent place to be. And it just so happened, I met this woman named Patricia O'Neill on the plane. I think I was going to New York, and she was on her way back to France. She said she was going to pick up her life where she left it when she met her husband. And we had a wonderful conversation on the plane and talked about books and everything. And then when the company went to France, this was before I moved there, I met up with her, and she was staying in this residence, and she happens to be the brother of Patricia. I said, did I say O'Neill?
Yeah.
O'Hare.
Okay.
She happens to be the sister of the O'Hare of O'Hare Airport.
Oh, wow.
I know. And she took me around Paris, and we went to her room, and she had a couple of friends, and we had charcuterie, and I spent the day with her, and I kind of had to help her. She had broken her thigh, and so I was helping her. She was probably about 70, 76, 75, something like that. And so when I went back to live, I remembered this place, and Keith helped me with my bags, and they had a room, and it was her room.
That's a full circle
It
moment.
was a full circle moment. It was her room, and wow, I stayed there for probably about a month until I found an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was, you wonder why you come into contact with some people, and then later it's revealed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
She was very helpful. She bought me a dress because she knew I was going to a big reception in Germany after visiting her, and she just wanted to do something for me. I never saw her again, but anyway, so I moved there, and I started school. I hung out with some cabaret performers.
Mm-hmm.
They helped me find my apartment. I had gotten there early so that I could become acquainted.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear the language was so different. Oh my God. And so I didn't have to start from the beginning, but pretty close.
Yep.
And I had signed up for intensive courses, so the classes were 3 hours and 45 minutes every day.
Mm.
And I thought I would be able to achieve what I had gone there for in a year. No.
Yeah.
So I ended up staying there for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And ran into some other people that I knew from the dance world. I met my husband there.
Mm-hmm.
He was working with a group of Saudi Arabian, it was Saudi sheikh
Mm-hmm.
or prince, and he had properties. So he was he was working as the chief operating officer there.
Mm-hmm.
There were like all the 5 people that worked there. But
Titles are important.
it was important, and he was handling a big portfolio, and so I ended up working there because we all knew this man, Richard Allen, who was a photographer, for a fashion photographer, and I had met him at one of the cabarets that I was introduced to, and he said, "Do you need a job?" And I said, "I do." And he said, "Well," and he wrote down the address and he gave it to me. And there was another girl, black girl there, and it was open mic night, and she was performing it. But she looked fabulous.
Yeah.
She had on this fabulous red dress, and I was in my bohemian wear. Anyway, so I went there and for this job interview, and you probably know all this.
No,
Okay.
go ahead. No, please.
And I went there, and I was in my bohemian finery. I had a mini skirt. I had a man's blazer and a crisp white shirt. It's always my favorite thing. And moccasin boots.
Okay, that is sounding more and more bohemian.
I'm not finished. And peacock feather earrings. And when I got out of the metro, I was in this really ritzy part of town. You know, Christian Dior's shop or his atelier, his workshop was there. I mean, there were just all these. The Georges V was down here. The Arc de Triomphe was right here. So I went up. I followed the directions, and there was let's go to 4 Avenue Hoche. I got to the building, and there were 3 sections. There was 4 bis, and 4 terre. And so I didn't know which way to go, and this man was getting into a car, and I asked him, I said, do you know where I can find Omar Benjamin? And he pointed to the building on the left, and he said, 4th floor. So I went up the stairs, and at the desk, the waiting room, at the reception desk, was a woman I knew from, she danced with Alvin Ailey.
Oh, wow.
She was sitting like, Beth? And so we talked for a while, and she said, well, I'm going to show you to the waiting room. And so I was waiting there, and I waited for like a half hour, and I was still in my artist mode, and I said, I don't need this job that badly. How can you keep me waiting for a half hour? And I was about to leave, and she came back in and she said, Mr. Benjamin, we'll see you right now. And so I went in there, and it was the guy that I saw downstairs that I asked him.
Wow.
And he looked at me, and he just had this smirk on his face. And I didn't say anything, and he didn't either, and he gave me a typing test. And the French keyboard is different, so the A is where the Q is. They're in different, so I typed a lot of Qs.
Yeah.
I haven't typed in a long time anyway, but it's something you don't really forget.
Yeah.
Anyway, later he told me, he said, well, you were late, and I had some things to do. It's like I almost got up and left. But yeah, and that's his sense of humor. He's kind of subtle that way. And he had a good laugh. And so I ended up working there with the girl in the red dress that I saw at the club.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we both were at the Alliance Française. We weren't in the same class, but we were both there. And when we were going to, we both knew we were going to be working, and there was a car that was going to come pick us up and take us there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went there, and the first thing after the first couple of weeks, the man that was in charge, the CEO, said, for your first check, I want you girls to go shopping.
Oh.
And get clothes that are office wear.
Mm-hmm.
So we arranged this big trip, she and I and Omar, and there was another expatriate that was there, and her 2 brothers, and we're going to go have this big shopping trip. And so by the weekend that got there, we were going to meet in front of the office. So we get there, and I'm there, and Omar's already there, and we're waiting, and nobody else is showing up, and and there were no cell phones, so we couldn't call anyone, and so we waited for about 45 minutes, and he said, I don't know if anybody else is coming. Let's just go.
Mm-hmm.
So we just went. We went shopping and did all this stuff, and there's a big Ferris wheel there. We had some champagne, and we got on the Ferris wheel, and then he walked me home, and there was a big student uprising as we were crossing the street. There was all these police officers with shields in front of them, and on the other side, you look the other way, and there was this burning car, and all these, it was like a riot. We're like, oh my God. So anyway, he got me home. The next day, he bought me a pair of shoes, and I really didn't like that because, I can buy it. That's why we got the check. And anyway, the car came to pick us up the next day from school, and she said, oh, I really like those shoes. And I said, well, I got them on the shopping trip that you guys were supposed to come on. And she goes, I was told it was canceled. That was Omar.
That was okay.
He told everyone, oh, we're not going to go. And so, yeah.
So you had some foresight there, too.
Yeah, and I didn't know that he was actually, I was determined I'm not going to get interested in anyone and just do my school and, go out with my friends and stuff like that. And I thought he was interested in the girl in the red dress. I thought, because they were talking it up and everything. I told you I don't talk that much, so.
Yeah.
So I'd just watch him, and we'd go out to dinner. The whole office of 7 people would go out, and we'd just have dinner and get to know each other. And I just swore that they were hitting it off.
Yeah.
And so when I told the CEO, he said, you're not supposed to tell anyone. Omar did that. And I was like, So when we did start dating, I stopped working there
Mhm.
because I had learned, don't work where you don't
Yeah.
date people that you're working with.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry, I really went off on a tangent
No,
there.
that's good. But you addressed things that were coming up anyway.
Okay,
so,
good.
So it worked out.
Good.
So moving into some of the different creative spaces around, we talked about perfumes and fashions and
Mm-hmm.
some different, and
Right.
jewelry and things.
Yeah, so when I got back, I signed up with a bilingual agency.
Mm-hmm.
I did it before I got back, and so by the time I got back, she had several things lined up for me. I actually signed up with two of them, and one woman gave me a place to go, but the other woman gave me a place that I really wanted to go, so I didn't go to those places, and she kind of told me off, and it's like, okay, sorry. And so I ended up going to Van Cleef and Arpels for this interview, and interviewed with the HR person and the assistant to Mr. Arpels, and I ended up getting the job there, and it's right there right on 57th and 5th. I mean, can't get any more in the heart of things than. So I ended up
This
working.
is in Paris?
No, this is in New York when I
Okay.
came back.
Okay.
And I had stayed in this women's residence. Was it a women's residence? It was a residence of some temporary
Yeah.
place. Anyway, so I ended up working there for a year and a half. And at one point, Philippe Arpels came to me. I was sort of the assistant to the assistant.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, I learned all of this about this amazing jewelry and gems, and it was just like, wow. And they were very, many of them were very, especially this one woman, Veronique. She was very open, and she would let me watch her while she would choose, from a big assortment of, multi-$1,000 gems to make a necklace or to make a piece of jewelry. And one time she gave me a test, and she said, okay, well, match up, they were pink sapphires, and she said, match up about 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it, but it looked good to me, and she goes, terrible.
Yeah.
But we became good friends after that, and we'd go out after work. She had quite an education. She's Malaysian, and she was handpicked by Jacques Arpels in Paris, and so she got her first-hand training right under him, and then came to work in the New York store. So she was full of knowledge, and she would tell me stories about going places and meeting these crazy historical people.
Yeah.
With Mr. Arpels, she talked about having dinner with Gaddafi, and
Wow.
I'm like, wow. And she taught me a lot about the jewelry industry. And so one day, Philippe called me. He lived at Trump Tower, and he called me over to his place, and he said, I'm tired of seeing your droopy face. He knew about Omar. Omar had moved to California.
Mm.
And so he said, I'm tired of seeing your droopy face. He said it with a smirk on his face. And he said, there's a position open in the Beverly Hills store. Would you like it? And I said, yes. And so he was such a good man. So I keep in touch with him. I don't talk to him very often anymore, but he was probably about 4 years older than me, maybe. Really good man. And so he transferred me out to the Beverly Hills store, where I got more of an education in jewelry, and I eventually became a salesperson, which was an experience. I had a few very interesting clientele. I had Brad Pitt for a minute there, which was cool. Charlie Sheen, Gina Davis, Victoria Principal. I had a lot of Alfred Woodard. So I got to work with some really interesting people and learn a lot about the jewelry. They had a workshop upstairs, and I would, just watch what they were doing, and decided I like jewelry, but I really like the stones. That's what I like, is just the gems. I worked there until we got married I worked there from 91 to 98 in the Beverly Hills store. And Omar got transferred to the Bay Area. And so, and I was pregnant, and we had our son in Southern California, and then moved up to Northern California, where I left the jewelry industry. I worked a little bit with Oakland Ballet because I had a friend that became the artistic director. So ballet's always been there.
Yeah, so where we last left off, it kind of brought up hard feelings. So but you were in touch with dancers in Paris.
Oh yeah,
you've had the network intact.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you get back into actually like working with dance proper? And like enough time passed? Or?
I guess so. I worked with Oakland Ballet because I was going to help my friend who had been my roommate in New York. But it just didn't. We discovered that we have two different working styles, and that they were best being separated.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get with her style, and so that was good. And I took classes while I was in Paris, so I was still dancing. And another friend had a company there. It wasn't a ballet company, but I would take class there, and his partner and I had met when we were on tour, and she was auditioning for Dance Theater of Harlem, and she didn't have any place to change clothes, so we said, come to our dressing room, you can. And then I ended up seeing her in Paris, and we were like together almost every day. So I've always been around it, but it wasn't until COVID that I really decided, along with the other ladies, we have to pay this forward. We can't take all this knowledge and experience that we have and not do something with it. It's what we did was an honor and a privilege, and we need to pay that forward and make it an honor and a privilege to help those that are in the shoes that we were in. Yep. Because unfortunately, the ballet world has not changed that much. It has, in 50 years, you still see one, maybe two dancers of color in a white company, in the big companies. I'm talking. Yeah. And even with Colorado Ballet, I only see two girls of color there. And only 2 years ago, the one young woman, Sheridan Guerin, became Clara. She was the first black Clara, 50 years later. Wow. It's just... I sent her a little thing via social media. Congratulations, I'm so glad to see that. It's about time.
It's a different kind of full circle.
Yeah. I haven't met her yet, but excuse me, but we decided to form this LLC not knowing what we were going to do. Well, knowing what we had in mind was just to motivate and teach people and give history. There was a company in England that is a black ballet company, Ballet Black, and they were talking about this shoemaker who has now started making point shoes in the flesh colors. And they were talking about it, but then they were talking about Misty Copeland, and they said she's not only the first black ballerina with American Ballet Theater, she's the first black ballerina, period. So I had to write them. I felt obligated.
Yes.
And I just said, you know, it's wonderful to see what you're doing and to see these shoes coming out. That is something that Dance Theater of Harlem started. But whatever we do, we have to keep our history authentic. And so she was not the first. But we love that you're acknowledging her, but there are so many more before her that should be acknowledged.
Yep. Yeah.
So just little, one thing at a time, just telling people that there was a whole company, and now they're back, and they look beautiful. They are amazing. It's like us in the old days, I saw them, and I saw them in Vail, actually, at the dance festival.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They were, I was so proud.
Yeah. That's lovely. So can you talk a little bit more about what some of your proudest moments have been over the years, particularly in dance, and what some of your favorite roles have been, or favorite parts that you were?
Proudest moments. Well, one that comes to mind is in Dublin. One of the lead dancers got food poisoning, so I had to go into a role. I found out at 6 o'clock for an 8 o'clock performance. But I knew it because of the way we were trained, and so I performed it, and it was a really great performance, and got to perform it from then on. He liked to have tall dancers be in the first cast and the shorter girls to be in the second cast. So the second cast was formed, and we got to do it a lot more. So that was definitely a move a move up in my career. I was the role of Equus in Equus, Jill the stable girl, is a proud moment because no one in the company had done that part before me. And I really identified with it because I do love horses, and I had been around horses, as growing up. I mean, I wasn't around a stable, but we would go horseback riding and stuff. And I love the smell of them. And so dancing that role, being awarded that role and dancing it and receiving really high review in the New York in papers, New York Times, New York Post, Daily News, for that role. That is something, it's a mark that I left, I know. And I've spoken with the choreographer since then, and he said, you guys were the best. You were such a good cast.
Yeah.
And he was very proud of us. Let's see, what else? Well, dancing at the White House. That was an honor. I wish it had been Obama. But it was still an honor to dance there. And
how did that come about?
I don't know. I imagine it was arranged with the people at Dance Theater of Harlem, and they wanted Dance Theater to come down and perform for the first dinner of the administration. So that was a good thing because, I mean, the experience was wonderful, and meeting the president, and it was President Reagan at that time, and Nancy Reagan, who I saw later at Van Cleef and Arpels, and got to tell her that yes, I danced at the first dinner of your administration. But she had also made a comment or inferred that we were all from Harlem, and we were all, rescued from being on drugs, and that old story, and so it was, it's like, come on, really?
Yeah.
Get some vision. Actually inform yourself as to what's going on, but I mean, who knows that her press people give her those things to say. I don't know what happens, but that was an honor. And dancing in front of the Queen Mother, who sits right there in her box, and we all have bow to her after we take our bow. That was a nice experience. I just missed meeting Josephine Baker, because she was performing at one of those the year before.
Yep.
And my husband just happens to love Josephine Baker. We went to an auction in Paris of her things, and he got some of her letters to her dear friend, and framed those in a big poster. But there was a designer there, that black designer, Patrick Kelly. I don't know if you know who he is, but he bought her headdresses. One was just black feathers that stuck straight. I mean, it was just, but I missed that. But just, meeting people. We were in Sidney Poitier's movie, A Piece of the Action, which was along with Uptown Saturday Night, and there was another one, I can't remember what it was. There were 3 of them with he and Bill Cosby.
Mm-hmm.
And so we performed in that, and just meeting him, and, being in that kind of an environment.
Yeah.
He was so nice. And then I met him later too. Those are memorable. Oh, and coming back to Denver to perform. The dance theater came back to Denver, and I asked Arthur Mitchell if I could do this role that I had been wanting to do, and he let me do it, and it was one of my perfect performances. It was just, of all the places to have a perfect performance, to do it here. And my mom was in the audience. I think my dad was there. He was kind of like a ballet, but proud of me. But it's not just like, our son is that way. He sings. He's a musician. He writes music, but he doesn't like musicals. Like, what? Anyway,
What was the ballet that you did here?
the ballet, it was the Four Temperaments, which is about a Balanchine ballet, one of his famous ballets, and the role was choleric. So there's these 4 temperaments: melancholic, phlegmatic, sanguinic, and choleric. And it's a solo, and it's very dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved that. I didn't get to perform it as much, because he really envisioned a tall person being in that role, because Balanchine's dancers were very tall, and that person that originated that role was very tall. So I think one of the reviews I got in Dance Magazine, where it talked about the whole season, and it said that that I did an okay job along with 2 other girls, but that I was an extraordinary performer, and I would look good dancing anything. And that was pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And kind of confirming, because you had been pretty flexible with all of these different.
Yeah. He told us don't read reviews, but somebody passed it to me on the plane, and nobody had said anything to me about it before, but that was a really proud moment. Dancing Equus for the first time was a really proud moment. Arthur Mitchell came backstage after the performance, and I wasn't in the dressing room, but the girls that I shared the dressing room with said he had tears in his eyes. So that was nice. And then, lastly but not least, was my reaching out to Arthur Mitchell after leaving, and being so angry. I had taken a life course, and I was just tired of carrying him around. He was just, I think I snapped at Omar. And he said, would you do something? And so I took this life course, and it made me see. And so I wrote him a letter, and I said, I've been mad at you for a long, long time. And I said, but I never put myself in your place. I don't know how it was to be you and to do what you did, to start a black ballet company in the civil rights era with everything against you. And you did it. And I said, and I thanked him. I said, thank you for creating Dance Theater Harlem and giving us a place to dance. And I said, I love you. I don't have your phone number, but here's mine if you ever want to call me. And he did. He called me and he said, I loved your letter. And we talked for about an hour and a half. And he told me how hard it was. That he would go downtown, because Dance Theater Harlem's in Harlem, and it's pretty detached from the other companies. And he said, I'd go downtown and I'd get funding, and I can't even imagine, because I hate asking for money. I mean, I really do. And he would do that, and he said by the time I'd come back uptown, he said they would have snatched the funding away.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said, so I'd come into the studio where you all were rehearsing, and I wouldn't even see who was there. I'd just see bodies. And he would just lash out, And he said, but you were a beautiful dancer. And that made me feel good. And so we talked a couple times after that, too. And he told me about his career. And he was the one that told me that Balanchine wanted half black, a company of half of black dancers and half of white.
Yeah.
Nobody had said that before, and it wasn't written. Now I think it's in the New York Public Library of Performing Arts. But yeah, I was proud that I did that, because he passed away a couple of years after that, and I was glad to have made my peace with him. I know a lot of the dancers who were angry too, and they did not get an opportunity to do that, and it sits with them. So, yeah.
It sounds like it was a pretty strong trauma, and that was just.
It was. It wasn't just that one day. It was, built up over 10 years.
Yes.
Time and time again. You'd think that everything was good, and all of a sudden his head would turn around, and that other guy would be there and just insulting you, and his approaches weren't the best. He wasn't perfect, but what he did was wonderful.
Have you seen, I noticed, observed other big changes in dance? Just in your professional arena, seeing it from this early time and things.
What I do see, and I'm proud of, is more companies incorporating flesh-colored shoes and tights, and especially for the few black dancers that they may have in the company. There is another all-black company, or I should say company of color, because they're not all black, but they are people of color, and they have taken on, they don't wear pink tights at all. So that's a good change, that big shoemakers and apparel makers are adapting to what is real, That's a big change. I have seen more dancers, it's still not enough, more black dancers in big companies. I'm mentoring a young girl who's with San Francisco Ballet, and I think she may be one of 5 women, and I think there are 3 men. It just needs to be more. And my question is always to artistic directors and their boards, why wouldn't you want to broaden your audience?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you want your company to reflect what the country looks like or the world looks like? You
Yeah.
know, by broadening the way they, you know, the people, the scope of people, you're going to attract that many more people.
Yep.
Because people are, you know, they want to see people that look like them. When Misty Copeland first came out, do you know how many little black dancers went to see her? I mean, not just little girls, but adults. You know, they were just so proud. And so I don't know why you wouldn't incorporate that in your company if it's about making money or long life of the company.
Yep. Reach and significance.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to check all the boxes.
Yeah, it's, you have to open, you know, you're supposed to be artistic and be visionary, so
Yeah.
your vision has to broaden, and yeah, you want to keep your audience.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid. It's only going to add, it's not going to take away.
Mm-hmm. So, do you see, over the course of your work, particular relationships to big historical moments or movements? Do you see the context of your work inside a particular?
I think, and Sheila was one who really brought this to our attention, you know, when the company, in its early days, that was civil rights, a big movement in the civil rights era. And although we were criticized by some, we also look at it as our way of protesting,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the way that we could best make an impression. You tell us we can't, we show you we can.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our way of, those were our fists in the air. I think that's what I can think of right now. I think we will always be protesters as long as they refuse to broaden their vision. We'll always be asking why,
Mm-hmm.
or why not.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Final thoughts kind of question. And I think you've addressed perhaps some of this over the course of the conversation, but how would you like to be remembered? Like, how would you like your legacy considered and thought about?
I would like to be remembered as a pioneer, as someone who never let anyone tell them who they were, that always had faith that I was being led in the right direction, and I have proof.
Yep.
And of a movement that really opened the doors for other black dancers in the ballet world. That what we did made it possible for what you do, and you have to do that too. We have to keep doing that. It's like the whole thing with the community. I mean, you know, we can't be against each other. You know, as mad as we may get at each other, we have to help each other see, you know, and be and grow and be one. We are a force, and I want to be seen as part of that force that helped carry us forward, did positive things, that went where other people wouldn't go, or
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you have, we've covered a lot of things, but is there anything, any other important ideas or stories or things you'd like to share that that we didn't get a chance to address?
I think we pretty much covered everything. I think the only thing that's sticking in my mind right now is something our son said. He loves tennis. He plays tennis, and he at one point was kind of a husky guy going into high school, and he had asthma, so he was taking steroids. We didn't really think about that was why he was so husky or overweight.
Yeah.
And the steroids, what they were doing, and he was going to be on the tennis team in high school, and the football coach came up to him and said, "You can't be on the tennis team. Look, you're way too big to be on the team." I mean, he just really put him down and told him, you should try out for football or something, not tennis. You'll never make it.
Yeah.
And it just destroyed him. And he came home and told us, and I was on my way back up there, and he said, "No, I'm going to do this." And he went back up and he told the coach. He said, I don't like what you said to me. It was mean." And he said, "And you can't write my future for me. I know what I'm going to do, and you can't tell me what that is."
Yeah.
And I just thought, he's so wise. These kids, And I carry that with me, and I tell dancers, nobody can tell you who you are. It's in here. God gave you a gift. The universe gives you your gift, and it's up to you to discover what that is and to express that, because by doing that, you're expressing God. And so by denying that, you're not doing what you were put here to do.
Yeah.
To share the gift that you were given.
That is a beautiful place to end. I really appreciate those powerful gems here.
Wow. Well, thank you.
All right.
I always credit him with that, because it's like, kids are something else.
It's true. All right.
Thank you. You've brought me to tears almost, I don't know how many times.
All right.
But thank you.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you for someone that doesn't talk.
It's been lovely talking to you.